All right, we are going to talk about the distributive property. The distributive property is actually a fairly easy property. It looks a little bit more intimidating than it actually is. What you need to think about is really what's going on behind the scenes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 4x plus 7, and we're going to talk about what it means. This means I have x plus 7, and I'm going to multiply it by 4. And to multiply it by 4 means that I'm going to take the x plus 7 and have it 4 times. X plus 7, x plus 7, x plus 7. X plus 7 4 times. 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time. And I'm just going to add them together. Well, if I was to do this, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd have 4 x's. And I'd have 7 and 7 is 14, plus 7 more is 21, plus 7 more is 28. I would get this as a final answer. Well, sometimes this could be really painful to write out. Let's say I made this a 14 or 114 times x plus 7. Do you really want to write this out 114 times? I wouldn't. So there's got to be a quicker way. Let me show you another example of it written out, and then maybe you can kind of see the shortcut. Let's see if I can. Oh, it's not responding. Hold on. All right, I apologize for the lag there. So then we have, let's say we had 3 times r plus 2. Well, what would this mean? This would mean r plus 2 plus r plus 2, the quantity r plus 2, plus the quantity r plus 2. And if I was to add all of these up, I'd notice I would have 3 r's, and then I would have 2, 4, 6, plus 6. Then I would have my answer. Well, someone may have caught on, and especially with part of that last problem, said, hey, isn't 4 times x 4x? And isn't 4 times a positive 7 positive 28? Can't I just multiply those two and get the answer? And how about down here? Isn't 3 times r 3r? And 3 times 2, 6? So can I just multiply those and get the final answer? Well, you can. That's the whole point of the distributive property. That's exactly what we're doing. So let me just give you another little example here. 5 times a minus 6. So I could write this a minus 6 5 times and then combine the terms, or I can just say, well, if it follows like these others did, I'm just going to take 5 times a to get 5a, and 5 times a negative 6. Make sure you pay attention to that negative. And I'm going to get negative 30. And that's it. You're done. That is your final answer. That's what it is to distribute. Distribute, think about a newspaper delivery person. They are going to distribute the newspapers. They're going to hand them out to everybody on the block. And in this case, everyone on the block is what's inside the parentheses, and that's who I'm giving it to. Giving the paper to everyone who is inside or on my block. In the next example, I have to do the same thing. I have to distribute first. And what I'm distributing in this one, once the machine catches up and comes back, what I'm distributing in this case is the number that's outside of the block. So here's my block. Here are the numbers on the inside. The number on the outside is the 5. I need to give this 5 to everybody in the block. So I need to give it to the y, and I need to give it to the 2. 5 times y is 5y. 5 times a positive 2 is positive 10. That's it. You're done. That's the answer. Let's try the next one. 6, parenthesis, a minus 4. 6 times the quantity a minus 4. So I'm going to, hopefully this stuff's moving, take the 6 and distribute it. 6 to the a and 6 to the negative 4. 6 times a is 6a. 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. Negative 24. And that's your answer. Nothing more. Let's look at this one. Take the 8. The 8 is the one who is on the outside of the block. He's outside the parentheses. I'm going to distribute him through. He's going to get 8n and negative 24. 8n minus 24 is your final answer. Similar to the one up there, I guess, but 8n minus 24. Again, it's just the same thing over and over again. Just watch these negative signs. In this case, I'm distributing a negative 2, and I'm giving it to the x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 1. I'm going to write that over here really quick. Negative 2 times negative 1. I have to remember that a negative times a negative is a positive. A bad thing happening to a bad guy, that's pretty good. 2 times 1 is 2. So positive 2. This ends up being a positive 2. And that would be my final answer. All right. We have to distribute this. So now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. What is being distributed? What is outside of the block? Well, you might say that negative 7 and the 5w are outside of the block. What I need you to think about is that this guy left. He went away. He's further removed because this plus sign is in the way. He's a different term. This is all one term here. The 7 is the one who's right outside the block, standing on the corner. We need to distribute this one through. So now I have negative 7 times w is negative 7w. I have negative 7 times negative 4. Again, a negative and a negative make a positive. 7 times 4 is 28. And then I would ask myself, do I give it to this 5w over here? And the answer is no. He is not inside the block. Remember, your block ended right here. Right here is where the parenthesis was. Your block stopped there, so the 7 can't go past that. So you might ask yourself, what do I do with the 5w? Well, you just rewrite it at the end. Hey, Miss Bednar, this looks a lot like what we were doing yesterday. Well, you're right. What I need to do now is circle my like terms. Here's a negative 7w, positive 5w. Those are like terms that can be combined. Negative 7w plus 5w. Negatives are going to win by 2, so 2w. So I'm done with the w's. This 28 is a different type of a term, so I can't combine him, but I do have to write it down below just like that. That is the final answer to this problem. Let's try one like this. I will admit you don't see this very often. It is not often that we're going to put a number in parentheses behind and then distribute through. It's just not something we see. But in case you come across something like this, the 9 is what is being distributed. He's the one who's right next to the block, right next to the family. He's part of the same term. Notice there's no positive or negative separating them. Negative 9 times n is negative 9n. Negative 9 times negative 2. Negative and a negative make a positive. 2 times 9 is 18. Then I don't distribute it to this negative 5. He's not in the block, but I do need to rewrite the negative 5n off to the side. I'm going to come through and see if I have any like terms. I'll put these in blocks this time. Negative 9n, negative 5n. Those are like terms. They both have n's. 18 is different. So I have negative 9n minus 5n. Tick, tock. So I'm adding these together. Negative 9 plus negative 5 is negative 14. So that takes care of my n's. And then I'm going to add the 18 onto the end. That is my final answer. So what do I need to know when I'm distributing? I know that I need to, if I have x times a plus b, I need to give the x to the a and the x to the b and multiply them. So a times x and a times b, and then add those two quantities. I know that if I had x times something times a quantity and then an additional number on the outside, I do not distribute it to that C. I distribute it just to the A and the B. So I would again have AX plus AB, and the C would just be added on to the end. All right. I do have your homework listed on here as well. Nope, that's the homework from the other day. So ignore that. You'll have to go to the calendar on the web page in order to get the homework. I apologize for that being the wrong homework. I hope that you were able to complete your work with the distributive property, and if not, ask me questions.